and to talk on yearning. Now, yearning, I was thinking of two words in Arabic. One is raghba and the other was raja. And there's not really a lot in the tradition about using the verb raghba. Often, but it's used in a negative context. Man raghba an sunnati falaysa minni, he who turns away from, which means that who has a desire out of my sunnah is not of me. And of course, this is in the hadith about marriage. So there's not a lot, in a raghba that way. So what I thought is we look more at the idea of raja, or hope. And so I have Imam Kushairi's epistle and Imam Ghazali's Ihya, a section on raja. And there's a lot of things that can be said, obviously, and more than than we can give it time. So I've just got a few things here. This I just took out, but there'll be other ones I'll talk about. So the idea of, alhamdulillah, of when you want to have a relationship with Allah, you have to desire. You have to desire, and that is desiring or desiring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and expecting, or having a very positive sense of expectation with Allah. And I think I've always talked enough about, I've talked a lot about over time how you can look at and see what Allah is doing for you, and which is everything. And you can, when you say everything, I mean everything. So that itself demands, I think, a proper response. So I put the verse there. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you have in the message of Allah Uswatun Hasana, which I did translate as excellent pattern, but I don't like that translation personally. For he who desires Yarju Allah and what Yawm al-Akhir, in the last day, and remembers Allah with great remembrance, or much remembrance. So that then posits with us that our desire for Allah is mediated, your yearning for God is mediated through prophetic yearning, or the prophetic filter. So everything, you can't just want God where you want God. That's what I want to say. You have to want God through the prophetic means. And that can be either through emulation, that is by mimicry, following, obedience, etc. These ways how you can approach God through the Prophet ﷺ. So I have that one then quote there from Shah Karamani. I had it here somewhere. He said, "Alamatul raja husn ta'ah." The sign of hope, alamatul raja husn ta'ah. That the sign or a sign of hope or sign of yearning is excellent obedience. So ta'ah is foundational to, if you truly are yearning for God, then you have to have this obedient yearning, obedient, compliant, congruence in yourself in agreeing to the way of God. Because there is a sabil of Allah, a way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is through prophetic following. So anything that you ever read about otherwise, in a sense of in Sufi traditions, etc., all are always going to be principled upon that. There's no statement of a Sufi or anything that is said except it's principled on being prophet-centered in some way. And so I like this quote from Dhul Mystery. He said, I've been writing this up on notes to keep them here in front of me. Bismillah. I get into my 3x5 cards. لا تشتغلوني فقد تعجبت من كثرة لطف الله معي. He said, when he was dying, people were gathering around the mystery, Allah, Sirruhu. He said, do not keep me busy, or not engage me. لا تشتغلوني فقد تعجبت من كثرة لطف الله تعالى عمائي. Because I have become bewondered, or wondered, or I'm wondered, amazed by the tremendousness of the compassion or gentleness of God with me. And I think that really is a beautiful statement, because we all should have ta'ajjub. We should all be amazed by Allah. And here, lutf of Allah, this compassion, even in pain, even affliction that comes to us, is but a good for the believer. And you have to believe that everything a believer gets is good. Every pleasure can be good if there's shukr. Every pain you experience is good if there's sabr. A believer never is except that there's something good for him or her. If you're a believer.
Is that in the sense that even if you don't realize it, or if you realize it?
Even if you don't realize it, there's nothing except that it's good for you. Nothing. Even when you sin, there's good in it for you if you make tawbah for it. How many people grow through sin? Some of the greatest awliyaullah were some of the biggest sinners. And yet they experience their sin in order then to appreciate what's something other than that which they were in. And you don't have to think that you have to live in some cloistered environment to have perfections. You have to be guarded and secure. Because our history is that many people who made mistakes and have made penance, and they excelled and brought near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a beautiful hadith about the man who kills 99 men and the 100th man, and the angels then sort of fudge the numbers. Because that's how God works. God's always fudging the numbers for us. Allah is always putting more in than we're putting out. You get one harf, alif, lam, mim. He gives you 10. That's how Allah works. SubhanAllah. So that really lays it on your favor of your yearning. You desiring and yearning for God is because when there's nowhere else to run to, at the end of the day, there's always Allah to run to. And that's what God wants you to do. God wants you to realize that I'm the only place you can run to at the end of the day. So, I like this statement of Dhunun. To be wondered with the lutf of Allah, the compassion, grace, and goodness of God. Because it is there for us. And of course, this is on his deathbed, so he's experiencing this on his deathbed. That's a good bushra. A bushra. Good news for us. I like this statement. I love this story here. This from Imam Kushairi narrates here, and it's just a really beautiful story. So he says, سمعت إبراهيم أطروش كنا قعودا ببغداد مع معروف أكرخي على النهر الدرجة إذ مر بنا قوم أحدث في زروق يضربون بالدف ويشربون ويلعبون فقلنا لمعروف ألا تراهم كيف يعصون الله تعالى مجاهرين ادعوا الله تعالى عليهم فرجع يديه فقال إلهي كما فرحتهم في الدنيا ففرحهم في الآخرة فقلنا إنما أسألناك أن تدعو عليهم قال إذا فرحهم في الآخرة تاب عليهم. So I translate that here. So we were sitting in Baghdad with Ma'ruf al-Kharki along the Tigris when some lowly people passed by in a boat, playing tambourines, drinking, and just playing around. So we said to Ma'ruf, do you not see how they are openly being disobedient to God? Imprecate against them with God Most High. So he raised his hands and said, O Allah, as you have made them happy in this life, make them happy in the life to come. We said, we ask you to imprecate against them. He said, if he is happy with them in the life to come, he has repented towards them.
That means they'll make tawbah in this too.
Yes. See how people read the wrong dua? They don't understand God enough to understand what he's saying. And these people are the attitude of the average Muslim. Smite them, God. Smite them. Smite them hard. Put it on CNN and Al Jazeera. Let's see it good.
Vengeful.
Yeah, vengeance.
So what does imprecate exactly mean? They're asking them to...
It means to make a bad dua. Right? We love that. Muslims live for that. It's one of the things we live for in our Muslim life. Making dua against someone else. But Ma'ruf al-Karhi, an amazing person he was, Suruhu. This is a beautiful dua, because he's seeing, that, their state, and Allah can just change it. They make tawbah, Allah make them happy in their life. So give them that, Allah. I like that. It's a beautiful story. My wife was telling me this morning one of her anecdotal Turkish stories out of nowhere. She just turned around and started telling me the story, and I'm like, okay. And this thing, there's this lady in Turkey, and her husband was a big raki drinker. Raki is that licorice flavored drink they have in Turkey. It's also in Greece.
Is it like wine?
Yes, it is. And it tastes like licorice. And he said, oh, my husband, this woman's husband drank it every day. So when he died, she used to gather with people at his grave, and they would drink raki there too. And it was I said, is this a true story? And she said, yeah, it was on the news. They filmed this lady, they went to the grave, the news camera crew, and there she is with these people, and she'd go out there, and they would, because she said, well, my husband liked it so much, and we thought we'd continue it on for him, he's gone on, and so we're going to sit here and still drink, and he loves it, keep him company. And my wife was saying, I was talking about why is she telling me this story? I don't know why. She's like, and she said, see how jahil people are? She said, see how people are. They don't know God, and they think that this woman thought she was doing something good, but she actually was like, not only was she, did her husband die, but something what he was doing which was not to be praised, she's even continuing after he dies to even feed his punishment even more. She's like, if there are angels of the grave that punish you, she's like one of them, she's got to stick herself to him, beating him, And she said, this is how jahil people can be. So that's why she told me this morning. I'm like, okay. When she said that, I thought, okay, that makes sense. Why you just turn around from the stove, looking at me telling me what? Because I get this funny Turkish anecdotal stories, and then they come out of nowhere. She's just Naim. And I'm like, what? I'm like, okay. But it's true. And I don't know why I told you that, but. I just I should tell you that this morning. Thank you. Now you go tell other people. That's the state of people. There's a lot of ignorance, and one of our ignorance is, a state of unawareness is deep desire, and desiring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for Allah, with Allah, by Allah, in Allah, for Allah, however you want to say it, to really want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and make this your objective in life. make Allah your sufficiency in life. And there's this hadith here from Sayyidina Aisha, of course, she said, Inna Allah, the Prophet said, Inna Allah Ta'ala la yadhaku min man ya'asa min ya'si abdi wa qunutihim wa qurbi rahmati minhum فقل يا بأبي وأمي يا رسول الله أيضحك ربنا عز وجل فقال والذي نفسي بيدي إنه ليضحك فقالت لا يعد منا خيرا إذا ضحك. Aisha said, when she heard the Prophet say, God Most High will laugh at the despair of his servants and their despondency, yet mercy is so near to them. So I said, by my father and mother, O Messenger of Allah, does our Lord begin to laugh? And he said, by the one in whose hand is my soul, he indeed laughs. So I said, we can only think of good when he laughs. No, of course, this is, just a note here, not to take this idea. He says, what does this mean, laughing here? Because some people take it literally. It's a sifat from the sifat, it's a quality of God's actions. But it means the manifestation of his fadl, of his abundance, his grace. For example, the Arabs said, "Dahakat ardu bin nabat," the earth laughed with plants. What does that mean? The earth laughed. It means the earth produced plants. So it's the usage of the dahaka in a sense of bringing something good. So this is of the grace of Allah. This quote-unquote laughter of Allah is a sign of Allah's fadl towards us. So anyone who says that the Muslim God is this vengeful, evil God out to get us kind of God, that's not the case. We have a hadith that Allah laughs, and we premise that by saying this is a sign of Allah's generosity towards us. Generosity towards us. And
so this is the different laugh from Allah yastahzi'u bihim.
Yeah, this is something else. This is not the same. So this is something that we want to keep in mind, is this tremendous generosity of Allah towards us. And the hadith is saying what? Yes, a servant is in despair and despondency, but mercy is so close. The mercy of Allah is always there. So you shouldn't have you shouldn't have despondency or huzn. This is not. The angels say, "La tahzanu." Allah, the angels say, "Don't be sad." Allah tells us in the Quran that the angels will descend and say, "Don't be sad." This is not how we should be. Believers, we struggle with that. We struggle because we live in this realm of of hiddenness from God. God is hidden from us, and so that's why you really need to seize Quran, seize tradition, so that the Sunnah, so that the hiddenness of Allah is obviated, because you'll find Allah in the Quran. At least you'll find enough of Allah to know what to expect, and you'll find enough in the tradition of the Prophet to know what to know of your Lord, without knowing it completely, but with enough to that shows you the one you're dealing with. And this, for us, is something that we should really be mindful of and place our expectations in. So it says, Imam Ghazali cites here that Ayyamu Qiyama Yamu Hasad wa la yahsadu ahadun illa ma zar'a. The Yawm al-Qiyamah is the day of harvest, and no person harvests except that which he has cultivated. So what's that? So what's your attitude towards Allah? What's your attitude towards Allah? Are you cultivating a positive mindset towards Allah, or are you cultivating a negative mindset towards Allah? And that is how you be. I am as my servant thinks I am. So what is your attitude towards Allah? What are you placing within yourself? What are you nurturing? And if you're nurturing this sort of wrong, vengeful, hateful God, then you may very well find a hateful, vengeful God, Yawm al-Qiyamah. And you don't want to find that Allah. It's like Sayyidina Aisha said, that any person who comes Yawm al-Qiyamah wanting a thorough assessment by God, then let him prepare himself for hell. Because if God takes you to task for what the details of the matter, you'll find yourself in hell. And Allah says, Allah already tells us in the Quran that if He took mankind to task for what they've done already, He would have already destroyed them. So, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika minka. The Prophet said, "Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you, from you." So you have to always, the only refuge, the only ma'wa, is if you turn back towards Allah and keep focused. The fox that doesn't get eaten by the lion is the one who makes the lion his friend. Understand? You're scratching your head on that one.
No.
Turkish sheikhs always have tilki metaphors, fox metaphors. Very popular things in Turkey to do fox metaphors. And over the years, we got a lot of tilki metaphors. Tilki means fox.
A lot of foxes in Turkey.
Not anymore. They've been shot, skinned, and shot. Though there were foxes, there was a den of foxes on a river last year in a rock crevice. I found the babies there, the puppies. Which kind of puppies? They were like looking at me from the rocks.
Where's the mother? Off hunting?
She was out looking at me from another rock, I imagine. I don't know what she was doing. She was down in town having a Iskender kebab or something. I don't know what she was doing. Allah says, "Inna ladina amanu wa ladina hajaru wa jahadu fi sabilillah ulaika yarjuna rahmatullah." Surah Al-Baqarah 2:18. Those who believe, those who hajar, who emigrate, those who make effort in the path of God, these are those who desire the mercy of Allah, are expecting the mercy of Allah. So if you want this yearning for Allah, then you yearn for Allah through obedience. Yearn for Allah through obedience. Inshallah. Allah says, "La taqnatu min rahmatillah." Do not despair or just be despondent in regards to the mercy of Allah. So Zumar verse 53. And then Allah Ta'ala said, and then the Mufassir mentioned about Yaqub alayhi salam. In a narration to you about Yaqub alayhi salam, Allah Ta'ala revealed to him, "Do you understand why I separated you from Yusuf? You want to know why I separated you from your beloved son? Because you said, وَخَافُ أَنْ يَأْكُلَ الذِّئْبُ وَأَنْتُمْ عَنْهُ غَافِلُونَ." When you said to your sons, when you said to your sons, I fear, so this is before Yusuf gets sent out, right? Before Yusuf is out, Islam, he says, Yaqub says to Yusuf's brothers, I fear that a wolf will eat him, or you'll be unaware of him. And then Allah Ta'ala said, why did you fear the wolf and not trust in me? And why did you consider the forgetfulness of his brothers, but you didn't look towards my ability to guard him myself? So because Yaqub made this type of statement, Allah Ta'ala kept Yusuf separate from him for years. Interesting, isn't it? You want to say something? Your hand go up.
Yeah, I did actually. I was just wondering.
I caught him my eye. I was expecting it.
You know the kind of you mentioned even before about the level of sadness. I guess even the sadness that almost kind of like a, you hear about how he cried every day. Is that something?
The prophets or some? Or Yusuf? Yaqub.
So is that like kind of like, could you compare it to how people get like depressed nowadays? Do you know what I mean? Is it kind of like a level of sadness, but you're still content and happy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'd imagine? It's just kind of a vague question that, can someone really be sad and like...
I don't think that the sadness felt by Yaqub or something is the same thing. This is because he's a prophet and his son's a prophet. He knows that God already has a relationship with his son because he's the ru'yas, and this has already been known, and he's already spoken to his son, about these issues. I think that there's a fellowship, a relationship of the Anbiya that only they share. I mean, how could I understand what it means for one prophet to miss? Because there's a fatherly relationship, there's a prophetic relationship between the two, and so I don't think it's the same thing. But I don't think that he was depressed in a clinical analysis of him. I think it's a different type of huzn there that he experienced.
See, since Yaqub alayhi salam was prophet, and so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took Yusuf alayhi salam away from him by just not placing his, he's fearing them both. So that applies for the humankind, or he was a prophet special in that sense?
No, I think the teaching here is that it's the teaching of this statement by Ghazali mentioning here is, where do you put your fear in? Where do you put your fear of loss in? And where do you put your expectation of acquisition, guardianship? That's what you have to learn from this. Is that don't fear the means, don't hope in the means, fear and hope in the musabbib, the maker of means. That's what you have to do. People, you can read these things, you're hearing pages of the stuff. That it's a rare thing. Remember when Alhamdulillah said he became a munafiq, and then he's like weeping, and he goes to Prophet, we're with you, it's like we're seeing Jannah, and we're away from you, we think, we forget, and with our families we forget, and that state we're in your soul, but we're with you, we lose that. He said, this is a rare thing. If you can maintain it, the angels would greet you in the street and shake your hands. So if a Sahabi is told this is a rare thing to a Sahabi, then, just learn down the street corner, the Prophet of God is living, literally, right? And it's a rare thing for a person other than a prophet to be in that state, and it's a rare thing. So you can read this virtue of this type of selfless negation before God, of absolute giving. But in every generation, it'll always be the rare people. They're Aziz. They're Aziz people. They're rare people. They're not the commonality of Muslims. But it doesn't mean you can't be a rare person. You have to really cultivate your certitude about God, till the certitude of God is more real than your own self. Yes?
I'm having trouble with that concept of Yaqub alayhi salam. If I go out at night at 2 a.m. in the ghettos or something, and I fear, I understand that the cause is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's the means are through people, to created things. So, is that not still the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That He's causing it to happen, but it could happen through created things that He's made. Does that make sense? That if Yaqub alayhi salam was fearing his sons or the wolf, he still understood at some level that it was from Allah.
Of course he did, and that's why it's even more painful. That's why God is more speaking to him directly. The narration says that God inspired him, Awha ilayhi, revealed to him why he separated his son from him. Because this his statement, the way he worded his statement, like the Prophet was not saying inshallah and about the next day about I'll give you that, and the whole story of the revelation of Surah Al-Kahf comes down. Well, the questions of the Jews, when's, who traveled from one end of the world to the other, and then what is the soul? And the Prophet said, I'll tell you tomorrow. And tomorrow came, and 50 days passed with no wahi. Why did Allah let 50 days pass without wahi? The Prophet needed to learn something. Now, of course, in this mosque they would have a totally different twist on that. But obviously, it played out with 50 days without wahi. And the narrations tell us that there was this sort of tension in the atmosphere. So you can't just sort of twist an interesting story out of that. This is the same type of thing. Prophets are made to experience these things, so the rest of us will learn something from that. The gravity is for the prophet is that it's a severe thing. It's severe. We won't ever experience that type of severity, alhamdulillah. Why? Because their certitude of God is not our certitude. So when God uses them as a teaching method about not to say inshallah, or not to trust in, not to fear wolves and things, but to trust in the maker of wolves. And when a prophet is the one who is the protagonist in this narrative, then the action of God will be very severe. But for us, that's a mercy, because since we don't have that level of certitude about God, and we become the protagonist in the narrative, then the action of God on our part will be less than what these stories are telling us. So it's normal for you to fear things, right? It's like Abu Hurairah coming, he's guarding, the Baitul Mal, and that jinn comes as a form of a man, and he's like cautious about it, and so he goes to the Prophet, and the Prophet says, don't worry, he's just a jinn, then okay, he feels better about it. The Prophet, he goes and tells, so it's normal to fear that, to fear things. And the average person would. But a believer can be such a person that he can transcend that fear and truly know that nothing will. It's like Khalid and Walid and the poison the Christians offered him. And he said, if Allah doesn't want me to die, I'm not going to die, because the poison doesn't kill, it's Allah. And so you see, you can be like that too.
Here at Bismillah.
Yeah, you can be like. So you see, you can be at all levels, and those levels are not something necessarily that are fixed with you, but they are like they pulsate within you. So you may have a state where you are really in absolute trust in Allah, and you may have a state where you fear something, and that trust is overcome by a moment of forgetfulness, and that's normal too. Understand? So be very cautious if you try to have a measure of something that it's a fixed state and it always has to be that way, because it may not. Because usually when you look at things, it never is really that way. You fluctuate. It's like Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, when a young man heard the Quran, reading Quran, and he said, oh, this young man was weeping when he heard the Quran. He said, we used to that, but our hearts have gotten hardened. Kasat qulubana, our hearts got hardened. He didn't mean it in a negative way. He meant that we have a different relationship with God now. Our relationship with God isn't your relationship with God. We used to be like that, but now we've changed. So, we go. So the idea then, back to Raja, or hope and yearning, is that you have this really positive opinion. Your dhan, your attitude towards Allah is always positive, and don't be despairing, thinking that God has forsaken you or left you in the lurch. That's what Satan does. Satan promises you a promise, and then he backs out Yom Kiyama. He whispers, he speaks you words that are truth, but every fifth word is a lie in the thread of words. And you don't want to get on Facebook with Satan. If you have chat with him, you can't believe everything you hear. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to have that trust. And that's a trial because He knows that you fear the things that you can tangibly relate with. The physical things around you, because they're so real for you. And alhamdulillah, He's merciful, He doesn't let that be. So he says, you have to be careful. Imam Ghazali says you have to be careful between hope and fear, that you don't have so much loss of hope that you just give up the religion. Most people do that. They give up. They despair. Things are so bad. They give up on God. God's not listening to my prayers. God's not making my life easier. I've been praying for this to get better. And so they do. They just give up. They thought because the relationship was based upon what? Well, if I ask God, He'll give me these things. He's not giving me. Oh, well, why should I give Him anything then? And so you end up in that. Or you're the person who fears God so much that you burn yourself with so much ibadat and things like that it harms you physically, or harms your family or relationships with other people. Yeah. You're an obsessive compulsive worshiper. Yeah. You want to be pure all the time. You can never get a proper wudu yet. You have to be so perfect about it, but you got to make sure it's right. So balance doesn't exist on either of these two. So this is a problem you can run into. And there's a difference between hope and expectation and tamanna, that is false hope. Hoping for God and yearning for God is obedience. But you have a false hope where you just follow your course as you are, but you think, well, God is really merciful, God's forgiving, He's so great, He'll overlook it. And you hear that with all Muslims too. It's like, well, I don't pray. I don't do those things. I'll do it one day. God's good. He's not striking me down yet. My house has not been burnt down yet. My wife doesn't have leprosy. My sons, it's okay. Things are good. I guess God's not really angry with us anyway, so it's okay. Because you think when God's angry, He has to manifest it in the here and now. Bam. No. Who said that? Who said that? So don't have false hope and false yearning, and have a real one, which is through ta'ah, obedience, and compliance, and humility, and submissiveness. Inshallah. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way to spiritually that you might kind of sense like Allah's anger on you, or is that?
Well, one thing you might be in Allah's good favor, quote unquote, is if once you were doing things like worship that weren't difficult and you give up on them. That's a good warning sign there. It's like if you're doing things and then you find out that, well, you stop doing them. Not because you can't, you just stop. For no rhyme or reason, it seems like. That may be a sign then that there's something amiss there, because Allah has taken that ibadah from you. To be mindful of that, that's a good one. And then you need to, we always have to, if you want to be a person who's desiring God, you got to talk to God and bring all these problems up with God. You can't just sort of like hide behind something. You got to talk to Allah. Allah, make it easy for me. Let me see what is it keeps me from you. Open my eyes up, open my heart up. Give me the perception of it. Give me the capacity to see it, to recognize it, and deal with it, and confront it. You really got to talk that way. That's the muhasabah. We have to always make muhasabah, personal accountability.
And you quoted some time back, one of the mashayikh, your ghafla could be a sign of God's displeasure.
Yes. So we always have to be, really mindful. You can't just, accept the status quo in your life at the moment. Look for something higher than you're at and strive for it. But those are things that you might want to be mindful of. If you used to give in sadaqah, you don't do it anymore, but you could. If you're offering night vigil prayers and you gave up on it, but you still could, but you don't. You don't find you're interested in reading Quran anymore. You could. There's no reason why you shouldn't be, but you just aren't. You find that you've gotten easier distracted by other things, and you know that you probably shouldn't be, but you are. And you shouldn't be drawn to them, but you are. Then those are signs that you need to stop and get the little black book out and look through what's going on. Because you have to, because a believer should be a person who does this naturally, if you're mindful how much gas money you spend, you're mindful how much money is in your bank account, you're mindful how many calories you're eating, you're mindful whatever you're doing. If you can be mindful and organize your life and being mindful of your checklist of things, and why are you doing a checklist of, is my ibadah weakening? Why is it? And now analyze it, Those things, for example, we need to be experts at, Perhaps we all need a course in hasanat and sayyat accounting. All accountants in the Muslim community, but they don't know how to do accounting of themselves. They can do your taxes, but they can't be taxed by God. Pan, usage of multiple uses of the English language. Anyway, Allah, inshallah, make us all people who desire Him and want to meet Him and draw near to Him, and make that our priority, no matter how hard it may be, the task, or how high the mountain may seem. The mountain is just an illusion. For the makers of mountains the maker of mountains can easily tear them down, just as easy as He builds them up. Inshallah, Allah give us that. Allah Ta'ala give us good reflection and good knowledge. And there's a lot of things in the books in front of me, but I don't have time to go through them all, obviously. Inshallah. And next week, I think we have one more hadith to do, I think. Two.
I think two more.
And then we'll start the tafsir on Surah Al-Waqi'ah next week, inshallah. Okay?
I have a question before we close out. About yearning for, like the yearning for the things of Allah, can that ever become a hindrance towards Allah, in the sense like, yearning for the Prophet ﷺ, or his love, or getting to know him, or
No, I don't think so.
Quran and stuff?
Because He Himself has commanded us to do those things.
Okay.
I don't think so. You appreciate the things Allah gives you to get back to Him. Honoring the gift is honoring the gift giver. Inshallah. Okay, inshallah, that's it for today. And inshallah, next week we'll... anything going on next week I didn't know about? Anything going on?